Today is brought to you by Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. Invest accredited and start earning interest in as little as a 30-day program. So we are here at the Mobile Mailbox Money Compound here in Tempe, Arizona with Sean Gibson out enjoying a cigar.
Absolutely. Cohiba.
Here at the studio, at the house, I've got a Padron 1926. I'm actually smoking here today. Sean, what are you smoking on?
I'm smoking on a Cohiba, and you always smoke those. I've never seen you smoke anything but those. So yeah.
Camacho's a good cigar. I've been smoking some Oliva lately. You know, the Maduro Perdomo is pretty good. Those are just a couple of ones that I stick with. At the end of the day, you stick with what you know sometimes, and that kind of ends up working out to my favor. So, Sean, appreciate having you out here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me out. I love the compound, podcast, everything. You got everything right here. Beautiful Arizona. So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the invite and a cigar.
You know, what's been going on with you lately, Sean? What have you been working on? You know, maybe you could just shed some light into what you've got going on the past 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, for me, it's all about trying to raise capital and reach out to our investors. We just got back from the Ohio Real Estate Conference. We met so many great investors. You know, we preface this all the time, but a lot of people don't understand manufactured home notes. So we did a lot of education. That was fantastic. A lot of people have a lot of real world money sitting on the sidelines. Addition to that, I think today we're wrapping up 12 manufactured homes this guy's buying. So I found 12 manufactured homes, got a great opportunity. I mean, everything, if you ever had a deal where everything works in your favor, it's like anything could go wrong, but doesn't go wrong. This worked out, that worked out, that worked out. So super excited for the company. 12 manufactured home notes coming up down the pipeline. I think did you guys already buy some? Did you take some yourself already?
So we'll be buying, I think, tomorrow, something like that. We've taken oh wow, that was a terrible putt. I've taken a few verbal commitments over the past day or two from a couple people. Shout out to Smitty, if you know him, out in the note industry. He's referred us quite a few people of investors that like the low acquisition costs of a $40,000 first lien, paying $333.33 a month, the super threes monthly. That's a construction loan program on these properties, actually. So that's kind of cool development. You know, Sean, how did you find these deals? For maybe the person sitting on the side, they're wanting to figure out how to make an extra income. You know, what were kind of some of the steps that you took to go out and find inventory like this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go back to my mentor, your father, James Guajardo. He always says it's about relationships. And someone brought me this opportunity. I went to look at a manufactured home for you guys on a Saturday, like 8 a.m. It didn't work. But she goes, hey, I'm going to keep sending you stuff when I'm getting opportunities. So I've got this agent. She sent me an off-market opportunity. And it checked all the boxes. And then, of course, you guys reviewed it, you gave your blessing, and then the wheels in motion. And here we are, a month later, and it's a great opportunity. You don't find these. You can't buy 12 single-family homes like this. It just doesn't exist. So for us to do what we're doing is awesome. But really, always, like you say, always talk to people online, in person, networking events. You got to stay, as Eldon says, in the shoe.
You know, she happened to be a player in the industry that we hadn't met before, Miss Tina.
Yeah.
And just goes to show how many people are out there operating in manufactured housing. Most people don't know, Sean, mobile homes are 10% of housing in Arizona. That's a vast amount of deal flow and homes available. But those are, some actionable steps for someone that may be sitting on the side wanting, commission-based sales income. They can go out and drive mobile home parks at the end of the day, finding for sale by owners, finding the people in distress that need to sell, and ultimately bring those deals to the table. It's not always going to work at the end of the day. Not every deal is a smashing deal. Not every deal is a deal to begin with. But staying in contact with these people or going and doing the driving yourself.
Absolutely.
All areas of actionable steps someone could take at the end of the day to procure inventory to us and make an income, on a consummated sale. We're not paying just for a lead.
Right, absolutely.
At the end of the day. Sean, for the seasoned investor, let's switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
For the seasoned investor that feels like a ritual educator,
yes,
I think a lot of people fall into that category. They go attend all these events.
Yep.
They may buy an education program and fail to take that step forward. What would you recommend for someone, the investor that's been to every investment conference? We've seen them possibly, and they have yet to take that next step, or maybe bought one note or whatever it may be. How would you encourage them to potentially move forward?
Of course, I would encourage them to, of course, get educated, but you just got to jump in. It's like when you learn how to swim. Sometimes your parents just throw you in the deep end and you got to sink your swim. Not so much, but if you've got the right education and the right team like Mailbox Money around you, you can make an informed decision. You've got all the information right in front of you, right there to make an informed decision. So if you've got passive income and you want to buy notes, there's no other place to buy them than with us. And I would say just start. You have to start. It may not be perfect, but you've got to start today.
Nothing's a sure win. At the end of the day, there is risk. There's risk in investment. It's like going to the casino with some other data underlying other than just gambling.
Right.
At the end of the day. And these education platforms and conferences, they should have given you due diligence checkboxes. And once you find an item or an asset that fits those due diligence checkboxes, it's time to take a risk.
Absolutely.
Mitigate it because you hit your checkboxes.
Right.
But if there's an asset out there that does end up doing that and you're failing to either call it quote unquote get off the couch and make a move, take a step forward, just understand that you're gonna have to bite the bullet and take a risk. And for the people that go out and buy maybe one note, they may only have $30,000, $40,000, $100,000. They go buy one note and they feel like now they're sitting on their hands collecting income. What would you have to say to them of the people that may have already bought a note from us or whatever it may be that may not have the extra capital go after, but they may have relationships? What would you have to say about that?
So, and that's the key. So obviously we all run out of capital. I've done it numerous times. I would start talking to your friends and family and say, look, I've got a great opportunity to have passive income. In this economy, we all need passive income. So I'll reach out to your family, your friends, and also start attending SREA events, real estate meeting events, whatever sphere of influence you have as far as if you're a dentist or a doctor, talk to your friends, really. Tell them what you're doing.
That is leveraging relationships. And what you're presenting to them is called a collateralized lending opportunity.
Yeah.
It's not just quote unquote passive income. This is an asset-based pledge to get a loan. What does that mean? That means hypothecation.
Yes.
Right? To hypothecate a note. Say Sean had $500,000 and he buys a few notes, still wants some capital in his account for a cushion.
Yep.
What could he do at that point? He could go tap Aunt Jenny, who's worth $10-20 million, and say, hey, I have a performing asset bearing double-digit interest. Can have you check out the collateral file, the photos. I'm willing to offer you 10% on my note that's paying 14%.
Yep, that's right.
That's called arbitrage in layman's terms, not in note investments. But in note investments, it's called hypothecation. In layman's, that's arbitrage. Yeah, you're arbitraging an interest rate to ultimately pull all of your capital out, possibly in that one position, and then go out and buy more notes.
Absolutely.
Say you didn't have the capital to originally buy that note, you could still do the same thing.
Sure, absolutely you can.
Knowing that there's deal flow, where can they find that deal flow, Sean?
Well, always at mobilemailboxmoney.com, or just call me directly, 602-888-CASH.
So, there's room at the table. There's an individual that Smitty actually referred to us I think yesterday, and he was saying that specifically, man, I've got my 30 to 100, but I'm finding challenge, because it's my only 30 to 100 that I have that I can risk out in the market. I want to buy more notes. So dude, you fit that case specific option of a capital raising component, with deal flow on the table, whether he refers somebody to us or whether he takes that step as an educated investor intellectually and poses that question to other individuals that have capital. Hey, are you looking for a return out in the market?
Yeah, absolutely.
A consummated, qualified, and cash flowing real estate note backed by affordable housing. It happens to be manufactured homes, which I think a lot of people don't so much understand because there's not a whole bunch of education on how to conduct a deal like that. But there's benefits that outweigh what a real estate note would actually procure. Not only the higher than traditional interest on the contract, but as far as if it were to go wrong, it's a repossession. You know, and a repossession takes like 40 days from non-payment to get the title back. Whereas a residential real estate note, you know, you have to go through the formal foreclosure processes.
Exactly. So off topic, what is your big thing around the industry? What is your take on the 50-year mortgage now is coming out possibly?
You know, I think that leaves a door of opportunity for investors to additionally keep acquiring properties and have the availability of a little bit lower of a monthly payment and still arbitrage onto a rental. You know, because at the end of the day, there's no price relief that's going to happen, you know, right now, and possibly even the near future. Why? Because the institutional appetite into single family properties, and I think every 5, I think they were saying, is an investment property, and it may be even lower than that. But that being said, you know, where's the relief out in the market when labor and material outweigh what can deem an affordable finished product because of permits and, you know, hardships in development and things of that nature? Where's the give at the end of the day? And to create a potential solution, you know, it's not so much a solution heavily out in the market. It's not the big relief people are looking for, but that may not come. You know, big relief may not come. We are seeing some hardship in pricing and things of that nature, but it's, you know, if it hits another 10% down in pricing, what are you going to see? Probably the big 3 come out and buy another crazy amount of single family properties. Just look at what Klaus Schwab said at the World Economic Forum. He said the American people are going to be renters for the rest of their life, and they're going to be happy for it. So, you know, seeing what the industry magnates are doing, hedging in the need, you know, those are all of utmost importance. You got to be nimble with the market at the end of the day. You know, if you sit and do what's conventional, that's not always going to work.
Not at all.
You know, so you got to think outside the box. Look at what other major players are doing out in the industry. Warren Buffett's like 89 or whatever, maybe 90 by now. And that individual has been a winner throughout his entire lifetime. And look what he's doing. You know, his investments in manufactured housing, case specifically in the financing, in the manufacturing, in owning the mobile home parks. I've been saying it for a while. He probably is going to own an insurance or warranty company on mobile homes soon. But, you know, the relief in a 50-year mortgage is really for the investors that are wanting to participate, you know, and find challenge because, you know, income's not penciling out on long-term real estate investment strategies. They also talked about, I forget the terminology, but, you know, walking with their loan. They have the availability of possibly a transferable mortgage. So they can have say they have a 3 to 5% loan on their single family property that they've owned for a while. They want to sell, they want to move and upgrade. They may be able to, I forget the term it was. It was like transferable.
Yeah, makes sense.
They pick up their mortgage and walk to the new house with that 3 to 5% rate. That's actually something that they're implementing right now. And I heard in Canada, they've been doing that for a long time. So, you know, picture your mortgage like a bag, right? And your bag is in your home. And when you sell that house, you now have 30 to 60 days to find another property. You pick up your mortgage, right, and go and buy that other house. You may had a $400,000 3 to 5% loan, and the other house may be another 100 to 200,000. It'll either become a blended rate between the two, is what I hear, or they'll stack, you know, that other mortgage, or you'll have to come up out of pocket for the down payment for the difference between the two. But I didn't know they did that in Canada.
Neither did I. No,
kind of a cool little revelation. You know, people are finding hardship all over the map in housing, affordability, rental rates. The investors are finding hardship in residual income. You know, you go and bury $100,000 with a 20% down payment into a DSCR loan for a long-term rental strategy. You're cash flowing negative. And some say that over the next 5 years, there's not going to be any significant appreciation. You know, so where's an individual to go at the end of the day? If you find yourself accredited, you could invest in Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. We're currently raising as a $50,000 minimum at 10% net paid monthly for a 1-year term, 12% net paid quarterly for a 3-year term, or 14% paid monthly for a 5-year lockup. We're just enjoying the weather here today.
Great day.
Any other common questions people are asking right now, Sean? Or
You know, let me think.
What's one off the cuff? What kind of gem can we drop here today?
Yeah, let's get a good gem. Of course, we know we always go. What happens if the client defaults? We talk about that like every other week. So we've got that already dialed in. But you know, people always ask, well, how do you find the deals? Because you buy so many deals every single month and raise so much capital. But how do you find all your deals? Because all your deals are always deals. They're never marginal, they're small. They may have issues, but numbers always pencil out. And most investors can't find deals that pencil out.
You know, I think
that's what I get asked a lot.
At the end of the day, not every deal that comes to the table for us is a super winner.
Right.
Not every deal we go through enough deals to find the gems out in the market to open that treasure chest. You got to go source 50 deals.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, we have done, you know, mass mailers. We've talked to park managers, talked to corporate entities, talked to people that own mobile home parks. And for us, we fit so well in that adjacent relationship because our niche market operation and license bonded insured under the Department of Housing, you know, that ends up being a knight in shining armor. Say someone's not a licensed individual, you could go on Facebook Marketplace all day.
Yeah.
Classic like automobile flipper kind of feel to it and just be throwing offers, you know, left and right. You don't have to so much be held to that Facebook message offer. It's obviously contingent on your inspection and things of that nature. And, you know, you just got to figure out how to walk through those steps and evaluate and figure out how to get the best price for the best quality with the least amount of work.
Yes.
You know, at the end of the day, we've bought homes for $500 and put damn near $80,000 into properties.
Right.
You know, do we want to do that every time? That's not the case. Look at these 2023 homes that you brought to the table. This person had sat on them for a year and a half. Maybe there's vacant lots in the community where we could possibly, you know, bring in new inventory depending on how pricing works out. Or a mobile home park owner that has 100 rentals and he's tired of managing that rental portfolio. You know, all of those are areas of opportunity. In that case specific environment, we can actually help that mobile home park owner turn his current tenants to homeowners via seller carry finance, depending on what he's charging in rent and what their qualifications look like. So, you know, super nimble once you understand the financing strategy, and it's really contingent all on the seller finance component, not just selling for cash, knowing how to properly structure a seller finance loan to make it quality enough for someone to actually buy it out on the secondary market. You know, so, you know, getting in touch with operators, you know, wherever you're at, being a haven of knowledge and understanding seller finance, how to use a mortgage officer to write the loan, how to use a secondary third-party underwriting criteria to validate the grade of that specific paper, you know, all areas of opportunity. So, you know, that's one step closer to financial freedom. Sean, what do we call that?
We call that mobile mailbox money.
That's just us enjoying the day, a couple actionable steps. We've got notes available at mobilemailboxmoney.com. You know, I think we took 3 commitments at $40,000 a piece. That's like $100,000, you know, 120, 90,000, and a couple others being consummated. You know, we're looking for funding partners. If you like this strategy, you don't find yourself a note investor, or you don't want a 20-year term, you know, that's where you earn bank quality returns in the fund. At the end of the day, passive, guaranteed by the fund. It's like opening an account at Chase Bank, but making 3 times the money.
Right, exactly.
Bam.
Good stuff.